Great. So we have now added our apples, some water. We also added some sugar as well, and then we added our pineapple juice and also some pineapple essence as well. And then now all we just do is we fire it up and we give it 30 minutes. We wait for it to boil first, then we start counting for 30 minutes basically. Then after 30 minutes, switch the fire off. And then we allow it to cool down until it reaches room temperature. And how do you know if it's room temperature? You can use a thermometer, or even use those apps on one of those cool apps that are on your smartphone. And then from there, then you'll be able to strain it and then transfer the fruit concentrate into your bucket. Then you will top it up basically with pre-boiled water. Now, as I was chopping away the apples, I already had some water boiling over there, so I'm gonna go and check that. Then come back over here and see how my pot over here is doing. Cool. Alrighty. Okay, so right now we've been boiling for like 30 minutes. It's ready. So what we'll just do is turn off the heat. Great. So once the heat is turned off, then normally what I would do is just leave it like that to cool down until it reaches room temperature. But this one little cheat trick that I do myself is that I would actually get a jug. Obviously it'll be cleaned and also sanitized as well, but because it's already quite hot itself, the heat in this pot from the cider basically will also act as an agent of cleaning up or killing rather the bacteria and unwanted wild yeast basically. So there it is. Woo. Steaming already. Great. So what I will do now is obviously get a jug that's already been cleaned, and then get my little sift over here, and then already start doing the magic. Great. So remember, the heat from and the steam over here already will act as a, how can I say this, a way of sanitizing and killing all the bacteria that's already inside of your bucket. And then when you add the pre-boiled cold water, you'll have a minimum probability of having infections from bacteria basically, or wild yeast basically. There we go. Great. Oh, it smells very delicious already. Woo! Look at that. Cool stuff. Just make sure you get all the sugars out of this thing. Alright, next up. Great, now we have our must or yeah, cider here basically ready. It's not a cider yet until we add the yeast. It's still quite hot, even though after we've just added some of our pre-boiled cold water. But what I'll do is seal it up nice and tight basically, and then wait for it basically to cool down. And you keep on checking it basically with a thermometer, or use one of those apps with your smartphones basically, because if you do add the yeast right now currently, it will definitely kill the yeast and you won't have any fermentation. Remember, no fermentation equals to no alcohol, therefore no cider basically. So what I'll do right now is I'll come back after a few hours, which means I'll be coming back to check it in the morning to see how the temperature is like. And if it is good, then yeah, then I will add the yeast and then wait for 7 days. And after 7 days, we'll have a nice, delicious cider to enjoy. See you soon. Welcome back. So we've prepared our, cider here. Well, it's not a cider yet until we've added yeast, and the yeast has already done its job over here, basically. So remember, it was way too hot to add the yeast, because if you do add the yeast when it's way too hot, the heat or the high temperature will kill the yeast, and if there's no yeast, there's no fermentation, no cider. So we left this overnight to cool down to reach room temperature. It has reached room temperature, so I'm going to open it up. And then, well, what other people like to do is to prepare a yeast starter. It's always advisable to prepare a yeast starter. But, what I've always done myself is just sprinkle the yeast on top, and it just does its job, basically. 1 packet of yeast will be enough over here. So this would be roughly, how many grams? 20 grams. 20 grams would be enough, basically, for a 30 liter, even for a 10 liter as well. So some people like adding like 2 packets of yeast. You can do that. I don't think that's really necessary. 1 packet of yeast will be quite enough to do the job. So there we go. We've added our yeast, and then we're gonna close it up and keep it closed. Try not to open it and be patient with it for at least a minimum of 7 days, and then we'll check it again and then siphon it to the next bucket, and then obviously then move it also to bottles as well, and then refrigerate it, and then you'll have your cider. Cool.